Let's just start with the truth that no one wants to say out loud. Waking up kinda sucks. At first, anyway. You think spiritual awakening is going to be this soft, glowing sunrise moment. You think it'll feel like peace and purpose and the warm, constant hum of divine clarity. But the moment it actually begins, it feels like being dropped through the floor of everything you thought you knew. You don't ascend, you unravel. And that's exactly what Alan Watts warned us about. Because awakening isn't a glow-up, it's an ego death. And ego death is messy.
If you enjoyed this breakdown, don't forget to like, subscribe, and drop a comment. Your feedback helps shape what we cover next, and you being here keeps the conversation going. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.
You start to realize that the you thought you were, your job, your relationships, your little anxieties and ambitions, all of it is just a costume, a social character designed for the consensus trance, a part in the play. And when that mask starts slipping, when you look in the mirror and see not a separate self but the entire universe blinking back, it's beautiful and terrifying, because no one tells you that the closer you get to truth, the lonelier it gets, not because you're better than everyone else, not because you're more spiritually evolved or you've unlocked some cosmic level up, but because you start to see that most people are still asleep. And now, you can't go back. You're bilingual now, like Watts said. You speak both the language of the world of appearances, identities, and polite lies and the deeper tongue of silence, emptiness, presence. You nod through small talk while your inner world explodes with the weight of what you now know. You laugh at jokes you no longer find funny. You nod at values you no longer believe in. You move through a society obsessed with winning, status, and separation, and inside, you feel like a ghost in a game you no longer want to play. And that's where the loneliness begins. Not just the absence of people, but the absence of connection. Because you see through the script. You hear the hollowness. You feel the tension between the world's illusions and the raw, aching truth you now carry like a wound. It's not a phase. It's not burnout. It's awakening. And it breaks you open. The you thought was solid starts to fall away. Your ambitions collapse. Your definitions of success evaporate. You don't know who you are anymore, and for a while, that feels like dying. But here's the twist. That brokenness isn't the problem. It's the portal. According to Watts, it's not the spiritually lost who feel lonely and broken, it's the spiritually awake. Because only when your ego shell cracks can the light get in. Only when your false self dissolves can the deeper self, the one that was never separate to begin with, begin to emerge. So yes, you feel raw. Yes, you cry at nothing. Yes, people you once loved feel distant, and things you once wanted feel absurd. That's not failure. That's your soul pulling you closer to truth. Because here's what awakening really is. It's the universe remembering itself. Through you. As you. You are not some isolated speck trapped in skin and story. You're not a name or a job title or a personality type. Your awareness itself, vast, boundless, and ancient, temporarily dreaming it was a person. And once that veil slips, you can't help but see the oneness in everything, even in your pain, even in the loneliness, especially in the loneliness, because once you realize you're not separate, something extraordinary happens. You start to feel compassion, not the soft, sentimental kind, but a deep, bone-shaking empathy for everyone else still trapped in the trance. You see their suffering, you feel their confusion, you recognize their grasping, their fear, their desperate need to be someone. And suddenly, the people who once annoyed you become mirrors. Their flaws, your old masks. Their panic, your past selves. And while that may sound romantic, it's also deeply, deeply sad. Because you know you can't save them. You can't wake anyone up. Not with lectures. Not with logic. Not even with love. They'll wake up when it's their time, just as you did. And until then, you watch. You wait. You hurt. Alone. But and here's the beautiful paradox, you're never truly alone. Because in awakening, you also realize this. The loneliness you feel is not yours. It belongs to all of us. It's not your brokenness, it's the cracking of illusion across humanity. The grief of consciousness remembering itself. It is the ache of the universe discovering its own depth. So yes, you feel broken. But it's a holy kind of brokenness. A sacred shattering. And it's not a flaw in your awakening, it is your awakening. Watts always warned that the ego is clever. Once it sees you leaving the game, it tries to sneak back in through the side door. It says, I see you're spiritual now. Let's be special about it. It whispers superiority, self-importance. It wears loneliness like a crown. But don't let it. Because the moment your awakening becomes an identity, the ego wins again. True awakening doesn't inflate you, it humbles you. It tears away every illusion of being chosen, better, or enlightened. It leaves you naked, soft, quiet. It replaces performance with presence, judgment with compassion, control with surrender. You stop trying to impress. You start trying to be. And slowly, the loneliness begins to change. It doesn't go away, but it softens. You start to see it as a companion rather than a curse. A reminder that you've glimpsed something real in a world of masks. A whisper that you're walking a path few dare to tread. A sign that you're awake in a dream most haven't realized they're dreaming. And from that place stripped bare, ego dissolved, you begin to live differently. You don't chase meaning. You embody it. You don't demand answers. You become comfortable in the mystery. You don't fear your pain. You sit with it, breathe with it, and let it be part of the dance. You realize that ecstasy and agony are just two costumes worn by the same actor, consciousness itself. You stop clinging to one and running from the other. You let them move through you, knowing they're not personal. They're just waves. And you are the ocean. That's the shift. That's what Watts meant when he said the universe is waking up through you. It's not about escaping the world. It's about seeing it clearly and showing up, anyway. You may still go to work, still pay bills, still sit in traffic. But now, you do it with eyes wide open. Now, you know none of it defines you. Now, even your sadness is sacred. Even your confusion is welcome. Because all of it is life. And life is what you are. So yes, the spiritually awake are often lonely. Yes, they feel broken, but not in the way the world thinks. They are broken open, and what pours out is light. So, if this is you, if you feel like your heart's cracked into and no one speaks your language anymore, breathe. You're not broken. You're becoming. And even if no one around you understands what you're going through, you're not alone. You're just awake. And that, in this world, is the bravest thing you can be. Here's the part no one tells you until you've already stepped too far down the path to turn back. Spiritual awakening doesn't make life easier. It makes life real. It rips away the comforting lies. The illusions of safety, status, permanence. The idea that if you just did everything right, you'd be rewarded with happiness, control, or peace. That the world would finally make sense. But awakening is the moment you stop waiting for the world to make sense and realize it never had to. And that realization, it changes everything. You begin to see how much of life is people pretending not to be scared, pretending not to be lonely, pretending their masks are real. And while before you might have joined the dance, now you watch from the edge of the room. Not because you think you're above it, but because you see it. You see the pain under the performance, the fear behind the pride, the emptiness beneath the noise. It's not cynicism. It's clarity. And that clarity comes with a cost. You laugh less, but when you do, it's real. You cry more often, but now, you let yourself. And silence, which once felt awkward and empty, starts to feel like truth. Because for the first time, you're not afraid to sit with what is. The loneliness, the pain, the hollowness. You no longer scramble to fill it with noise, distractions, or relationships that don't reach you. You let it all be there. You let it breathe. And in doing so, something quiet and miraculous happens. You begin to realize that the loneliness isn't a punishment. It's a space of sacred pause. A clearing where the truth of your being can finally emerge. Watts said that awakening is like the ego cracking open, and everything that was held tightly in place starts to fall apart. But what he also meant, and what's harder to grasp, is that the pieces that fall aren't you. They're who you thought you had to be. The perfectionist, the overachiever, the fixer, the tough one, the nice one, the spiritual one, the one who had it all together, gone. And what's left? Something soft, something unguarded, something terrifyingly honest. And this honesty doesn't always win you friends. It doesn't always fit in. Because in a world where everyone's performing, authenticity can feel like a threat. People say they want truth, but what they often mean is truth that doesn't make me uncomfortable. They want light, but not if it shows the dust in the corners. They want healing, but not if it means facing their pain. And you've stopped lying to yourself. Which means now, you can't lie to others either. You start noticing the subtle ways people cling to their narratives. How they twist their wounds into stories of superiority or victimhood. How they define themselves by their trauma, their careers, their spiritual practice, their curated identities. And while you may still love them, you no longer believe the mask. You don't argue. You don't correct. You just see. And in seeing, you begin to understand what Watts meant when he said that the greatest compassion comes not from saving others but from recognizing that they are you. All of them. Even the ones you judge. Even the ones who hurt you. Even the ones who sleepwalk through life, dragging their egos behind them like thrones. They're you. Just wearing different costumes. Just playing different roles in this divine, cosmic theater. And once you see that, really see it, the game changes. You stop needing to be understood. You stop chasing connection through performance. You stop negotiating your truth for belonging. You still hurt, but you hurt honestly. You still cry, but now, your tears have purpose. They're not just grief. They're a kind of birth, because you're being born again, not into perfection, but into presence. And presence is the only place where peace is real. Now, this isn't to say you don't get lonely. You do. Deeply. But the loneliness no longer owns you. It doesn't mean what it used to. Before, loneliness felt like failure, like rejection, like you were missing something vital: love, attention, validation, touch. But now, loneliness feels like truth. Not forever. Not a prison. Just a room you must pass through on your way back to wholeness. And in that room, you meet yourself fully for the first time. No mirrors. No makeup. No mask. Just you. The awareness behind the name. The presence behind the personality. And that self, it doesn't need anything to be complete. It doesn't need applause. Or followers. Or the perfect partner. Or the perfect practice. Or some mountaintop moment of enlightenment. Because it already is the mountain. The sky. The silence. The storm. That's what Watts meant when he said, "You are the universe experiencing itself." Not metaphorically. Literally. You are the one consciousness playing all the parts. And once you see that, everything softens. You stop resisting the hard parts of life because you realize they're part of the play, too. The heartbreak. The illness. The uncertainty. The silence. They're not obstacles to awakening, they are awakening. And so is your loneliness. It's not a detour. It's a doorway. A sacred space where the ego can finally rest. Where the need to be seen, understood, and praised dissolves into something quieter. Something deeper. Peace. Not the kind sold in retreats or promised in manifesting rituals. Real peace. The kind that doesn't need a reason. The kind that survives heartbreak, failure, and grief. The kind that remains when nothing else does. And from that peace, compassion flows, not because you try to be a good person, but because when you stop clinging to your identity, your pain, your story, you see clearly that every being is struggling in the same way. Every angry customer, every arrogant politician, every annoying relative, every ex you still stalk on Instagram. They're not the enemy. They're just scared, just hurting, just playing their role, unaware it's a role. And you don't need to fix them. You don't need to save them. You just need to see them, truly. And that, my friend, is the sacred work. Not to escape the world, not to rise above it, but to be fully in it, heart open, ego surrendered, loneliness embraced. Because loneliness doesn't mean you're broken. It means you've stopped pretending. And in a world built on pretense, that's the most radical act there is. So let yourself feel it. Let yourself cry in the shower. Let yourself long for connection. Let yourself ache when no one gets it. And then, let yourself remember, this is what it feels like to wake up. It's not always graceful. It's not always poetic. It's not always Instagram worthy. But it's real. And in the end, real is all that matters. So don't numb it. Don't rush it. Don't shame it. Sit with it. And slowly, it will show you things the world never could. It will show you who you are beneath the noise, the name, the narrative. It will show you that your loneliness is sacred. That your brokenness is holy. That your path, though solitary at times, is leading you home. And when you arrive, not in some afterlife, not in some mountaintop monastery, but right here, in this breath, in this moment, you'll know. You'll know that the freedom you were chasing was always here, waiting. And that the loneliness was never punishment. It was a gift. It was the universe's way of clearing space for the truth. So here you are. Alone perhaps, but never truly, because the one who sees is the same one being seen. And in that seeing, the illusion of separation dissolves. And all that's left is this, raw, real, radiant, you. Let that be enough. Let that be everything. And so, here you are. Still breathing, still hurting, still awakening. Let's not sugarcoat it. There are days when this path feels unbearable. Days when the silence isn't peaceful, it's punishing. When the stillness you once called sacred now echoes like a void. And you wonder, was all this inner work worth it? Was waking up really a gift or just a different kind of exile? But here's the twist. You already know the answer. Because even on your worst days, when the loneliness cuts like cold wind, you can't go back. You've seen too much. You've tasted a kind of truth that no job, no relationship, no Instagram quote could ever replicate. And that truth, it's still here, right now, underneath the ache, waiting. That's what makes this journey both brutal and beautiful. There's no finish line, no final trophy, No spiritual badge for how well you handled your awakening. Just you. And the raw, ongoing miracle of seeing clearly. What Alan Watts tried to tell us and what many don't want to hear is that awakening isn't the end of pain. It's the end of numbing. And that, ironically, makes everything feel more intense. You cry harder. You laugh deeper. You love wider. You lose more often. And every one of those moments is real. Because you're no longer living on autopilot. You're not performing. You're not dressing your pain up in enlightenment clothing. You're just here. And here is messy. It's full of contradiction. One moment you're blissed out, watching the clouds roll by like you're the Buddha reincarnated. The next, you're crying in your car because a stranger looked through you like you didn't exist. You know too much to be shallow. But you're still too human to be invulnerable. That's the paradox of being awake in a sleeping world. You want to shake people, to help them see. Not out of ego, but out of love. Because you remember what it was like to believe in the illusion. You remember chasing validation like it was oxygen. You remember mistaking busyness for meaning. You remember being terrified of being alone. Now you walk among them, still smiling, still polite, but always knowing you are not like you were. And that difference, it isolates you. Not because you're better, but because you're more open. Your boundaries are gone. Your skin is thinner. Your empathy bleeds through your pores. You walk into a room and feel everything: the grief no one names, the smiles that are masks, the quiet desperation humming under everyone's small talk. It's overwhelming, but it's also your gift. Because the world doesn't need more people who've mastered the art of pretending. It needs people who are present. People who can hold space for pain without trying to fix it. Who can be lonely without collapsing. Who can stand in the center of the storm and whisper, "I'm still here." And you, whether you realize it or not, you are becoming one of those people. Every time you sit with your sadness instead of scrolling past it. Every time you choose truth over comfort. Every time you embrace the ache rather than numbing it. It just is. It's your teacher. It's the sound of the false self dying. The echo of illusions fading. The space where something vast and wild and sacred is being born. So don't run from it. Sit down with it. Listen. Because sometimes the silence isn't empty. Sometimes, it's God. And in that stillness, in that aching, hollow space, you may just remember, you were never truly alone. You were only ever being reintroduced to yourself. Thanks so much for watching. If you made it all the way to the end, you're officially part of the small percentage of people who don't just click away, and that means a lot. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment below and tell me your thoughts, your ideas, or even what you'd like to see next. I read every single one of them, and your feedback genuinely shapes the direction of this channel. If you enjoyed the video, tap that like button. It tells YouTube this content is worth sharing. And if you haven't already, hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next upload. We've got more exciting videos coming, and trust me, you'll want to be here for them. This channel is just getting started, and your support helps it grow faster than you realize. Thank you again for spending a part of your day here with me. Stay curious, stay motivated, and as always, take care of yourself. Until next time, I'll see you in the next video.